guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today in the Ask SSM video series, I'm going to do an update to a video I covered last week, which was titled, "My wife has known for 8 years that her best friend's husband punched my son and never told me." And guys, as a recap, and that was a pretty popular video, a lot of you guys commented on that. That's about the husband and father who I'm guessing is at this point probably in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, married for obviously a long time. And he found out recently from his son that 8 years ago, when the son was 16 years old, his wife's best friend's husband punched him. No joke. They were like in some kind of outing, if you will. And he and his younger brother, I guess, were being boys, if you will. Teenage boys being rascals. And the guy took him aside and cold-cocked him. A minor. And this is a guy who has military training. Military training means trained with the ability to use deadly force, that type of thing. Well, we would assume so. And he found out about this, and the son thought the father knew. And as you can imagine, the guy was just, what the F, you know? He confronts his wife. The wife downplays the whole thing because she kept it secret from him for 8 years, hitting his boy. Completely unacceptable. He confronts the couple, the wife's best friend or husband, who again downplayed the whole thing. So he wrote in asking me my advice, and you guys were all pretty much in agreement with me that this guy needs to find out what's the statute of limitations in his state, because it's probably after 8 years probably gone, but still find out. And potentially he may have issue criminal charges if possible, or civil charges. And a lot of you guys said he should go to the commanding officer or the guy that will not be looked upon too well in the military based on this type of thing and all that. And finally telling his wife pretty much, you're going to cut those friends off or you and I are done. And that's being nice, you know. I frankly would be handling things differently, but the odds are he probably wants to stay married to her. So basically, you cut them off or we're done. Well, anyhow, that's the recap. Now we have an update to what things have been going on since, and he's been a very busy bee, let me tell you. And with regards to his son, his wife, those people, the lawyers, all that. So he says here, hello SSM. Thank you again for sharing my story with the community. Thank you all for your comments and suggestions. There are a lot of questions to answer from the community and other details to share with you. I have to be honest with you, while watching the post, it made my blood boil even more, but I had to compose myself to write this update. He means not his blood boiling at us. He means about the whole situation, that mother effer that hit his boy. Unfortunately, since there's no report submitted, it becomes a he said, she said situation, according to the couple of law firms that I reached out to. In other words, statute of limitations and all that. Same with the military after consulting with the local branch in my area, but they said you can file the complaint, but it probably won't be addressed, which is unfortunate. But I'm not going to stop there, and we'll make sure their reputation will be tarnished. Well, good. Absolutely. I had a feeling after 8 years, sadly, it wouldn't come to anything, but still, I'm sure if you do some thinking, you can figure out a way to make this guy pay in some capacity. The first detail that I'll share is how and what led to the punch. As I mentioned from the previous post, my family and her best friend's family were on a road trip in the Bay Area. After finishing the tour from the local university for their daughter, while settling in the SUV, my second boy, who's 14 at the time, dozed off in the back of the seat beside my oldest, and his head leaning onto my son's shoulder, and the oldest didn't take it lightly, so he popped his shoulder to get him off. Okay, so the boys are in the back of the SUV, younger brother, older brother. And you guys that have brothers and know how brothers can be, they can be rambunctious and rascals in varying degrees. Younger brother falls asleep, leans on the other one's shoulder, and the other one's probably like, what the fuck? And shook him off. Not the end of the world. Something very much boy-like. It says here, when this happened, my wife's friend saw the incident through the rearview mirror. According to her, she was so upset at what she witnessed and told her husband what had happened and gave him rein to deal with it. So upset. Again, if what I'm visualizing was just him like, get off me, motherfucker, not exactly a big deal. But sounds like the woman made a mountain of a molehill, got her husband all worked up. He had to prove he's a strong man, showing those boys who's boss in his SUV, upsetting his little wife, and off we go. My wife was outside attending to our daughters, so she didn't witness the incident between my sons. So when they arrived to the next destination, everyone was walking away from the SUV, and her husband asked my son to stay behind. He needed to talk to him about something. Oh, talk to him, huh? Of course, my son obliged. The husband waited for everyone to be at a distance from them and sucker punched him on the chin and said, "How does that feel?" What a fucking pussy. If he wanted to give him a talking to, like, hey, cut that bullshit out in the back of my car, I got no problem with that. But just punching him, a minor, and again, this is a guy who's trained to use deadly force? No, this guy's a fucking pussy. But one thing if the boys were in the backseat of the car, beating the shit out of each other, grabbing each other's shirt and punching each other, then I'd have no problem him pulling over the car, opening the back of the car, grabbing those two knuckleheads and say, you both are going to cut this fucking shit out right now or I'm going to fucking, you get the point. But they weren't doing that. And he could have just had words with him, end of story. No. My son was in shock when he caught it and was speechless. He told him that you should not bully your sibling since you're the oldest one. That doesn't sound like bullying to me, what you described, what happened. After hearing this from my son, and later confirmed by the husband, I was convinced that this so-called extended family was a scam. One of the things that my son shared was he thought everything was good since we took a family trip to the islands to visit them. I told him if I had known then, I would never have put you in the family in their presence ever. And I apologized to him, hugged him and told him that I will deal with this accordingly. I was heartbroken when he was telling me this incident. Well, unfortunately, like you said in the first story, the son thought that you knew. And your fucking wife kept it quiet. Why? Because obviously those people, the friendship with her, we all have to question about him, is more important than your family and your son. During my meeting with them, one of the questions I asked her friend was, why didn't you address it then verbally, and why did you and your husband had to use some kind of force to address the situation? And did my wife give you the authority to do so? Both of them replied there was a lack of judgment on their part, and I then replied, you're fucking right, it was more than a lack of judgment on their end, and it's not forgivable in my book. Lack of judgment? Get the fuck out of here. They were on a trip with your boys, because your families are close, and they're taking responsibility for them. I don't hear this fucking lack of judgment bullshit. I'm not a perfect parent myself and was raised in an old school way, so I definitely kept my kids in check when needed, but not in that capacity. Yeah, exactly. I was raised old school too. Good God. And believe me, I got the belt. But there's a difference between getting the belt on my behind when I'm 7 years old and getting punched in the face. Just to be clear, punching a kid as the uncle or dad to discipline them is not parenting in my book. Exactly. As for my son not telling me before, he mentioned to me that my wife knew when it happened because she had to discuss it with him after the punch, and I guess trying to justify where her lunatic so-called best friend and husband reasons were, and she would inform me on what happened. Yeah, she's a little late. Well, she left the part telling me the whole story because I would have called in sick to pick them up. It might keep my family away from these lunatics. I do recall her calling me explaining that the boys were being obnoxious to each other during the trip, and I had to talk to both of them, but nothing was shared to me regarding the punch. Again, you get a bunch of teenage boys, brothers together, and yeah, they're going to be obnoxious from time to time. And believe me, I could get you wanting to slap the shit out of them, but there's a difference between wanting to and obviously how you handle things like a fucking parent, And again, it's not like they were in the back of the seat beating the crap out of each other and endangering. You get the point. They were just being knuckleheads and all that. So needless to say, Rachel and the lunatic simp husband are cut off from our family, which I informed them during our meeting. Good for you. Now you gotta stick to that. As for my wife, she's on thin ice and she knows it. I told her that she needs to sever her ties with them or we're done. I told her the longer she waits to address this to them, I'll show where her loyalty is, and don't be surprised in the ramifications. The saga is not over yet, so I'll update the community if there's anything major comes up. I appreciate you all, and thank you, SSM. Well, bro, I appreciate the update, and I'm not surprised. You've been quite busy since I first published your story here. Well, here's the deal. As you're well aware, when it comes to women, Strength is everything. They perceive weakness, there's going to be more bullshit. So you're going to need to mean what you say with her, that if she doesn't cut them off, basically you're done. She needs to know there's ramifications. And there's a reason she obviously didn't tell you this all this time. And quite frankly, as a lot of guys said in the comment section, they'd be very curious about other things about her. You know, a lot of guys were curious. You know, she seems to really be defending this asshole. As it usually comes up, how do you know your kids are yours? Maybe your boys look exactly like you. I don't know, but that was a question that was definitely raised a lot in the comment section. Or other questions about what else is she hiding from you? And that's definitely one I'm behind, you know, because it's usually not just one thing. So I would do some digging if I were you. I would really do some digging, paying attention to a lot of things, because for all I know, you thought you had a pretty good marriage, and there's no reason to look at shit. Now you got reason to start digging and having the mind of an investigator, you know, as a detective, trying to figure out what could be going wrong. But again, like I said, I'd make sure that your boys know fully, no matter what happens in life, you got their back. That you may not like what they do or agree with what they do, but you love them, you got their back, and they can tell you anything. 2, okay, the statute of limitations are obviously gone, but still see what you can do to, you know, have some fun with them. 3, cut those motherfuckers off, had nothing to do with them, and you got to mean it. And if your wife, and 4, with your wife, again, I'd be doing some digging. And it wouldn't hurt to find out your options, since you're already talking to some attorneys. Find out what would happen if you got divorced, if it went that far, because you have to be prepared for it. Find out how bad it's going to be. Your boys are obviously adults now, legal adults, so there's no child support. How hard would you get hit with alimony? How much of your shit would go to her? That type of. I would find this out, just in case, because it might literally take having you meeting with the lawyer and maybe having papers printed up just in case. Like, all right, honey, you're not going to listen to me? Look what I have here in this folder, right here. You have to play hardball. It's unfortunate. She wants to play hardball, you play hardball. Batter fucking up, bitch. That's all you can do. And where this thing goes, who knows? But if this has been her BFF for all these years, do not think for a second she's just going to easily let her go. In fact, the easier she says she's going to cut her off, the more likely it's bullshit. You know? Because they're going to still talk on social media, or they're going to still text and stuff like that. You got to make it clear, it's over. Our family comes first. You got to prove your fucking loyalty. Because for 8 goddamn years you kept this quiet from me because you knew darn well how to react. You know, you chose them over our boy, these fucking wackos here. And who knows what other shit went on, you know? So that's what I would do. So I know it ain't easy. Not certainly. I'm sure just a week ago, before you found this out, you thought your life was good, and you find out this shit. But you're showing to your son how much you care for him and how much you're a good dad to him and got his back. And your other kids know this too now. So there's a reason your wife has been walking on eggshells around you, because she knows you mean business. But you're going to be tested, my friend, guaranteed. But I got your back. We all got your back, and we're eagerly awaiting some updates and everything. So definitely write me when there's something to talk about. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Again, guys, just like the other day, comment away. Let this guy know what you think. Anything you might want to add. Any of you lawyers, military folk, law enforcement guys, anybody who's been through a divorce, anybody that can chime in to give this guy a piece of advice. You may not think it's a big deal, but it actually could help this guy out. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.